guys, welcome to the channel. This is Yvonne from Ginger Chicory Head. Thanks for hopping on and checking out what I am up to. So in today's video, I am going black. I have some secondhand finds that I want to make over and share the process with you all of how to get them ready to resell. So isn't she beautiful? Oh my gosh, we waited to the end. This was the very last item at an auction that we went to bid on this. The good thing about waiting to the end is a lot of the people were gone. So we did come home with this for $25. Yes. And I know for the people who love oak, I am so sorry. Yes, I am giving this a makeover and it will be going black. This is a beautiful piece and black benches are in right now. Actually already power washed this bench. This was, oh my gosh, in a hoard at an auction in somebody's barn. So first is I power washed it to get most of the dirt off, and now I need to make sure that I have the rest of the dirt off. Just some Dawn dish soap, some hot water, and then I'm just trying to get all the rest of that dirt off. I will admit to you that if I did not have a sprayer to spray paint this, I might leave it behind because painting spindles, painting legs is not a fun job, but I am blessed to have invested in a sprayer, so I'm going to be spraying this piece. After I went back in and totally inspected this, you know, just because you have a sprayer doesn't mean there's angles that you just don't get. So it's kind of like standing on your head trying to see if you missed a spot when you were spraying it black. So now I'm going to be sealing that paint in with some polyacrylic, and luckily this comes in a spray can. Now, I'll definitely do a bench when I find a bench, but chairs, I usually don't do single chairs. But at an auction that we went to, they were basically giving furniture away. So this beautiful chair was $5. Yes, it's got some scratches on it, but it is super sturdy. There's nothing that needs to be tightened. $5. Scratches are too deep for one of those just restore projects like Howard makes. It's going to need sanded. They are deeper than a finish like that can save it. So, but oh, look at the style of this chair. Isn't just not absolutely gorgeous? So I'm like, yeah, okay, for $5 I'll bring it home and I will make it over. I'm thinking that it's just the finish that has been scraped off. It's not down into the wood. So I'm using a 220 grit sandpaper. I don't want to go low into my sandpaper count because there's that curve to the seat. I don't want to go into the wood and take away that curve. Make sure that my bottom completely matches. I have to go on the other side of the spindles and make sure I get the finish and it's sanded down on those areas also. And then I scuff sanded the spindles and the legs and everything. I needed to take that shiny top coat off. I need something for my paint to grab onto. Oh yeah, sometimes that's a workout and probably why I stay away from single chairs. But oh, this one was too gorgeous to pass up. So now I'm just getting this cleaned off with some Dawn dish soap and some hot water. Before I can spray paint this, I need to even out the porosity. As you see, some of the wood is showing, some of the original finish is still there, but it is completely smooth to the touch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with some shellac, a couple coats, let them dry in between, and what this is going to do is going to even out the porosity where the paint gets absorbed into the wood. Unlike the bench that I just left black, just left it as is, this chair has some amazing sharp edge details that I want to bring out. So I'm just taking some 220 sandpaper on those sharp edges and just getting it down to the wood. And that's really going to pop some of these details. That I have all the areas distressed, that I wanted to show off those beautiful details, along with taking some fine grit steel wool over the entire piece to make sure that it is nice and smooth. I am now going to proceed on waxing. Now that I've showed off some wood, I need to have a finish. So now I don't want to brown up the wood. I love the black that it is, but I also would love to seal it in with some wax. So what I'm doing here is I have some of the Jolie's black wax with a little bit of the natural wax. That way I'm not darkening up where I showed the underneath of the wood. I'm just getting everything all sealed in. So I'm kind of dipping my brush into the black and then dipping it into an old can of the natural that I saved just for this occasion to use on items like this. Sometimes that natural kind of will leave a cloudy, but if you add a little bit of that black to it, a little bit of that black wax goes a long way. Nope, this is not an auction find. This is not a garage sale find. This is not a secondhand find. This is a piece that a friend just happened to ask if I was painting black. So yes, this is a friend's piece that I'm going to throw in and get it painted up black. I believe she said this was an IKEA piece. So it is actually a press board type of piece. So I'm just going to share with you on how to paint press board. I have a little prep to do. It does have these little feet on there that I want to take off. I don't want to get those painted, along with, as you can see, they have some tags underneath that I am not going to paint over. I don't think they're important anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and get those removed also. I do have to go in and scuff sand this piece, so I'm going to start off by checking out how it reacts to the bottom. So I just have some 220 sandpaper. So what press board is a lot of times they have a paper over the top of the press board to look like it is real wood. So you have to be really careful when giving it a scuff sanding to not go through, and it's not that is not easy as it is anyway. And I know she had started off thinking she was going to paint the piece herself and started by hand sanding it, but it's a paper, so it really doesn't react very well to the hand sanding as well as it will the Orbital sander. Then when cleaning this type of material, you don't want a lot of water on your cloth, because what'll happen, it'll get into that press board and it'll cause any open areas to swell. So really wring out that cloth. I want to double check that one, I don't have any sanding dust. I don't have any water that got into all these slats, the detail on the top. So I'm just taking the air compressor and making sure of that. So now I'm going to use this primer. This primer is supposed to be really good on MDF board like this. So I'm hoping that it'll give something for the final paint color to attach to. So yes, you could just spray it, but there's really, it's like I said, it's a paper, it's a press board, it's that MDF board. There's really nothing for the paint to absorb into. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a coat of this primer. Now the primer comes in black or red, and gray or red, and I just happen to have the red on hand, and so I'm going to give it a coat. So here's some auction finds. Not that we found them all at the same auction, that we found them at different auctions, and they were like $1 a piece. I kid you not. So haul trees. Yes, who doesn't like a little coat rack? So I haven't had one of these in our booth for a while. So what's the chances of 3 different auctions, 3 different coat racks? So I'm going to share with you how I'm going to make them over, and then how I'm going to fix up that one that the dog chewed on. I'm going to go ahead and start off with trying to smooth out. As you see, there's a lot of wood fiber sticking out there, so I'm just going to take the Orbital sander, try to get most of those chunks as smooth as I can. And I'm not going to deal with trying to come up with some new pegs. I'm going to go ahead, since I'm going to be fixing this anyway, I'm going to go ahead and pop the other 2 out of the legs that they're still there. So I'm going to be using Durham Water Putty. If you've not used Durham Water Putty comes in a powder, and you mix it in with some water. You just figure out what consistency, what thickness you need. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in those holes where I removed those pegs, and then where the dog chewed, I'm going to go ahead and build up the product and then let it sit overnight to completely dry. And now that it is dried overnight, Chris is going to go ahead and he's going to use the Orbital sander to try to get that same curve as the other 2 have. So yes, I really wanted to build the product up so we had plenty of product to be able to sand it and achieve that shaping. And I think this is a pretty good match. Yep, I got some touch up to do, but oh my gosh. Yep, there we go. We filled in the holes. We got that curve back. I need to go ahead and start getting these cleaned up. Oh, this base has been sitting somewhere. It has a lot of dirt built up. I'd already taken the air compressor and blown off the first layer of dirt, hopefully. But nope, this is just that dirt that you just have to go into. And I'm really trying to work it out of the crevices. You can definitely tell that this one is a homemade piece. I think that this one with the homemade piece, it has 2 levels of hook, and along with the big oak one has 2 layers of hooks also. And now that's the first time that I've actually done one that had the multiple layers, but I want to keep that wood look on the top. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove them and get them painted up with a fresh coat of paint and leave those lower ones as is. And yes, I do want to keep the original wood on the tall part of these. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. I think the 2-tone is going to be beautiful on these. So I'm going to go ahead and take the time to tape off that other area where they had applied the feet. And this one, I'm not really sure what the numbers say. It's kind of has been worn off with time, but it's a beautiful additive little feature. So I'm going to go ahead and pop it off before painting this base. I know a lot of times taping off sometimes seems tedious, but the end result will be worth it. This one has a lot of water staining on the bottom. This one had the dog chewing going on that we needed to fill in. And this one is just a plain wood base, and actually the 2 types of wood do not match each other. Before moving on to paint the bottom of these, I need to go ahead and even out that porosity between the wood filler and then what's left over from the original finish and what we sanded down to that wood. So if you paint over that without sealing it in with something, your paint job will be uneven. So I'm just doing a couple coats of shellac, and I'm actually going to go ahead and do it on all 3 of these bases just because I know that there was water damage. The other ones don't really have any type of a top coat on it, so I think just going over with shellac and then proceeding to, yep, I'm just going to paint the bases black. I thought about painting them white, but I thought, you know, that will really show dirt. Since these are coat racks, since this is something that you enter in your house or you hang things up, I thought black will be deceiving and hide any of that. And yes, I did lift up my piece of board and put a Lazy Susan underneath it. Actually, 2 of them have it. I wish I had a third Lazy Susan that I could move around to do that big heavy oak one, but nope, I only have 2 extra Lazy Susans. So now I'll probably be thinking about the next time I see one at a thrift store to pick it up. Look how easy it just makes to just turn this around. This would be an awkward item because they're so tall to be able to have to move around. And then I didn't quite get a big enough piece of wood, but I knew that I was going to have to hand turn this piece. Getting 2 coats of paint on, let it thoroughly dry. I'm now going to seal that paint in using some polyacrylic. Definitely want a good top coat on this paint. It again is a coat rack. People could have drippy coats from being out in the weather that may drip onto the bottom of that wood, which, as you saw, the one had water damage, which is the one I'm working on right now. And now I'm just going to go back in and I want to distress those edges, bring out the beautiful detail, especially on this one. This one has some amazing detail on the base of this. And I'll go ahead and take some steel wool, making sure that everything is nice and smooth before sealing this in with a little bit of clear wax and some black wax, just to make sure that I don't change the color of my paint. Then after getting my tape removed, see, it was well worth the time to tape off. That just is a beautiful detail on that bottom with that wood and that black just popping. Now I'm just going to reapply this little tag, I'm going to call it, on the bottom with these little nails. Oh, don't you just love trying to get little nails back and finding the holes that have paint in them now? But oh, it's a wonderful detail. Clean all that hardware up. I just use hot water, a Dawn dish soap, give them a little bit of scrubbing, make sure that there's not any residue on them, and then thoroughly let them dry. I like to separate my screws out to know which screws go to which. Only 2 of them had hardware. I had to purchase off Amazon. I didn't have enough in my hoard for the other coat rack, but yes. So now I like to put my screws on a piece of styrofoam that helps them so they don't roll around and I can keep them separated. And now I'm just going to go ahead and yes, the other ones had some porcelain little white pieces that I was able to screw off. I was so happy that I didn't have to tape those pieces off. But yep, I'm just going to use some Rust-Oleum flat black to spray these up, and then after they're dry, I'll go ahead and flip them over, get the other side, along with sealing them in with some polyacrylic after the black paint is dry. Just so happens to be this is the one that I needed to purchase hardware for. I had so many 3s in my hoard of coat rack hardware, no hooks, but nope, I did not have 4 and I needed 4. And this wood is hard. It is a hard wood, so I'm going to have to pre-drill my holes. But sadly, there's a hole that's still going to show. I know I could have wood filled it. I could have painted these, but I really think that the wood feature with the black is beautiful. So I'm just marking where I need to pre-drill my holes for my new hardware. And actually, my original idea was actually to hammer in some square nails, that we had some vintage square nails, but unfortunately, the wood was so hard, the nails were just the same length as what I would be running into each other trying to hammer them in. So I actually had these little tacks that I picked up at an estate sale, and I thought, oh my gosh, they matched. That vintage metal matches the bottom tag. They're just random numbers. They don't really mean anything. So they're almost, a little bit of a fit. It's too big. So I'm just going to use some of the CA and the Star Bond glue to just fill the hole in, not overfill it, but just enough that it will run onto the back of that metal. Put a little of the activator to dry, and now we have a beautiful detail on this. Okay, so what did you think? I know the basic black bench will sell all day long. I know I just have seen a ton of them out there, along with that chair, a $5 chair. The bench was $25. Oh my gosh, thank you. Anyway, and then along with Courtney's little side table, yes, that press board is not always the easiest thing to paint, you all. Sometimes it will give you fits. I did not mind throwing it into the grouping only because we don't usually do a lot of consignment commission pieces. So she just happened to ask at the right time. And then the haul trees, yes, haul trees sell. So picking them up for less to nothing at an auction, okay, yes. And they're always in need of something. Hardware, dog chewed on it, but I am very happy to share the process with you all of what to do with it, because not only can you use them, they're very useful for hanging coats and whatnot, but you can also use them to hang decor. And if you have a booth, it's double bonus because you get to hang things off that also until it sells. So thanks for watching, guys, and just let me know in the comments below, have I inspired you to look at secondhand finds in a new way? And as always, if you're part of our YouTube family, thank you so much. And if you are new and you're checking out our channel for the first time and you liked what you saw, please hit the subscription button along with the notification bell so you know when we've uploaded a new video. And we will see you next time, guys, and you can see what we're up to. Bye!